Well, I thank the ranking member and chairman for the time. Ambassador Kirk, thank you for coming. You are very articulate, as always. Ambassador for Trade and working very hard, and I appreciate that very much. I think pretty much everything has been said, but I'll probably say it again. Right behind you is Ambassador Silva from Colombia, about 2 back. He's a veteran ambassador. I think you know him well. And he came to meet with me with his able assistant, and knowing that I had known the previous ambassador, and I had worked very hard to try to get a trade agreement with Colombia when all that talk was started 5 years ago, and that they had been successful with the FARC and the paramilitary. I even know that because my daughter was a part of the World Food Program and got stuck between the paramilitary and the FARC. I didn't know she was there. I wouldn't have permitted her to go there had I known that. But such are daughters. At any rate, I didn't know what to tell him. I was embarrassed. I'm embarrassed now, sitting right behind him. Working for 5 years to get this done. Win-win situation. Everybody said it was a win-win situation. Well, I think I can see the reason. I think Ms. Cantwell pretty well put her finger on it. We want to make sure that somehow the trucks are on a comparable basis with trucks in the United States. I guess that's what she said. And then something about labor. I don't know why we don't do this in the International Labor Organization. You mentioned, sir, that rather than pushing for fast track for all 3 trade agreements, and thank you for sending the text up to this committee, and I hope we can get it done. But what do I tell the ambassador sitting behind you? We're going to do it for South Korea, but not Panama, and more especially Colombia. After all the hard work, I can tell you who does not care too much about the labor concerns, although I understand the labor concerns, but again, I think they could be addressed in another venue. And the environmental concerns, let's not forget about that. But that's Brazil and their regional trade agreement, the Mercosur agreement, hope I'm pronouncing that right, Argentina, Paraguay, Uruguay. Venezuela has signed a membership agreement. I doubt if they get in. I hope they don't get in. Bolivia, Chile, Ecuador, Peru, and Colombia. And the ambassador pointed out to me that they used to import, in regards to grain, feed, wheat, Kansas wheat. It was about somewhere between 42, 46%, something in that neighborhood. Now it's down to 20, headed toward 16. And I can tell you that basically Canada and Argentina is supplying a majority of those foodstuffs, as opposed to Kansas and the United States. I just met with 105 presidents of the Kansas Farm Bureau last night. They want to know what's going to happen with the 3 trade agreements. And I said, well, I hope we can do one, but it doesn't look like we can do the other 2. Why? You pretty well answered that question when you started off, when you said, you said rather than pushing for fast track for all 3 of the trade agreements, you were trying to influence public opinion. What on earth have you said, and can you really recognize, or can you really determine any change in opinion with organized labor or some of the environmental groups in regards to their opposition almost to any trade agreement, but more especially to Colombia? Have we changed public opinion about that, especially when it was a win-win? Have we done that? I mean, what are we doing to change public opinion? If you ask the public opinion, and I didn't even give you a chance to answer, and I apologize, I'll slow down here in a minute. If you say a question, would you support a trade agreement we've been working on for 5 years with Colombia to offset any possible relationship it could develop between the leadership of Colombia and Hugo Chavez? Would you be for it? And I think probably you'd get about a 75% say, well, shucks, yes. I mean, my word, why would we want to do that? Or do you think that we should help the one country of the 31 that are members of the Southern Command in terms of our national security, who are American allies and have come through a very, very difficult time to achieve stability? And isn't it time to pass a trade agreement we've been working on for 5 years? It's a win-win situation. Now, that's my question, and that's how I would pose it, and I think you get an 80 or 90% approval. So I guess my question is to you is what have we done from the standpoint of alleviate the concern of Americans for so-called cheap products coming into the United States, and that concern, which I understand, and the need to go ahead and pass this Colombian trade agreement along with the situation with Korea?
Senator, you've asked me a lot of questions.
I know
Let me reiterate. I share you, coming from a state like Texas, believe me, I share your concern, your sense of urgency. We have a trade policy that lets us take advantage of these opportunities, not move market share. But as I said to my good friend Sam Johnson when I was at House Ways and Means Committee, I haven't just been in Texas and Kansas. I've been in Detroit, I've been in Pittsburgh, I've been in the Carolinas, and I have asked the American public that question, and you get different answers. And I know people feel very strongly about it in Kansas, but my job is to make sure that we get them to feeling a little bit better about it or less afraid of it in places like Detroit and Pittsburgh and Carolina so we can move forward. And what the Obama administration has said from the very beginning, it wasn't just enough to come and go conclude agreements just because we think we can conclude them. We have a responsibility to listen to all Americans' concerns, both positive and negative, honestly try to address them. We've done that by focusing more on enforcement. We've done that by making sure that we would address those issues that go to our core values. That's what allowed us to move a Korea free trade agreement that was otherwise stalled. And we think that's what is going to allow us to move forward with Panama and Colombia. We absolutely have given you a commitment that we're going to work to resolve those. We are encouraged by the actions we've seen by President Santos, and I understand your comments about Brazil, but Americans expect more from us than maybe some of these other countries do. And this is important to the Obama administration. We think it's important to the American public. We think we have a discrete opportunity and window to work with the Santos administration to do many things they've told us that they think it's in their interest to do. And if we can do that and link that to our approval of the free trade agreement, we think that's the most responsible thing to do. And we're moving just as quickly as we can to try to get that done.
Mr. Chairman, I would only observe that if I were in Colombia's shoes and I had the United States of America trying to determine my labor policies and my environmental policies and hook them with a trade agreement, I'd find another trade partner. And I think that's exactly what's happened. I don't know what kind of public opinion effort that you can launch to have all 50 states say, yes, we want this agreement. But I tell you what, when the Ambassador came to meet with me, I was embarrassed. And I think we just have a difference of opinion, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Menendez. Or Senator Carper first, yes, I'm sorry.